So the aim of this talk is to describe the implementation of a multi-scale downscaling climate system. So this work has been funded by the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, and by the ClimSat initiative. And the target application for this downscaling system is really for the support of developing countries. So the outline of my talk, so first I will give the context and the motivations for this work. Then I will introduce the dynamical kernel and the downscaling strategy we opt for. Then I will show a first application of this system for the Southeast America, so more specifically over Uruguay. And then I will just give a few comments about the perspectives associated to this work. So first, the overall context is the United Nations territorial approach to climate change program. And part of this program, there is the ClimSat, the so-called ClimSat initiative, which is a partnership between United Nations and the Brittany region. And the overall mission of this project is to provide a support for developing countries that are particularly vulnerable to climate hazards. So really, the mission is to improve our knowledge about the vulnerability of some specific countries in order to be able to design practical solutions and practical tools in order to avoid any major problem in the future. And this project involves a lot of private companies and public institutes in France, like the French Navy, Météo France, Ifremer, and other companies. In my case, I'm going to focus on one aspect of this project, which is the study of the regional climatic trends. And in this case, really, our first step is to be able to provide a high temporal and spatial resolution view of the atmospheric circulation for a given region. Because if we are talking about developing countries, there is no long-term reliable measurements. So we need to design something, to find a way to design a regional climatology, high-resolution climatology. And to do that, we are going to start from the existing global climatologies. So there are two possibilities to do it. First, statistical downscaling. The idea is, of course, to build an empirical function to map large scales onto fine scales. And the second approach is a dynamical downscaling, which is a numerical regional modeling. So our approach will be to first, between, let's say, 1970 and 2000, to do dynamical downscaling. Thanks to this dynamical downscaling, we will be able to calibrate a mapping function in order to do statistical downscaling for future times. Because if we think about, for example, different IPCC scenarios, we cannot imagine to use dynamical downscaling for each scenario. So in this case, we will use statistical downscaling because the computational cost associated to statistical downscaling is really is not very important, very significant. Actually. So today, I'm really going to describe what we did for the dynamical downscaling. So to do this, first, of course, we need an atmospheric mesoscale numerical model. And if we think in terms of regional modeling, so there is an entire family of numerical modeling available for the community. Part of them are spectral models. So for our application, it's not possible to use this kind of model because they are essentially global models. For regional applications, we have open boundary conditions. We don't have biperiodic domains. And more generally, if we think in terms of kinetic energy spectrum, thanks. If we think in terms of kinetic energy spectrum going from large scales to molecular scales, actually, we are really interested by this part of the spectrum corresponding to mesoscales. And if we think in terms of modes, we go from rotational modes at large scale to divergent modes at small scales. So we really want a model that is able to have a very accurate representation of divergent modes. And this is the case for models using a C-grid discretization. So this is the first very important point for us. Second point, of course, is to have adequate parameterization schemes. And a second very important point is that we are really going to look at small scales. So we really want to have higher order numerics in order to have very scale-selective diffusive operators. So if we take all those points into account, we found that the WRF IRW model developed at the National Center for Atmospheric Research is really the natural choice for our study. And on top of that, this model has the very interesting capability to do one-way and two-way nesting. So I will explain later why it's very interesting in our case. So this is for the atmosphere. For the ocean and wave modeling, actually, because for some particular studies, we strongly need to also have an ocean model, because two of our regions of interest are Peru and Senegal, and those two regions are corresponds to two productive upwelling systems. So very near shore here, we can see this is taken from the ROMS numerical model, and this is simulated SST, so sea surface temperatures here. And what we can see really near shore, actually, there is a tongue of very cold water, really, and this is the same thing for Senegal here. And if we take all the SST, the satellite product for SST, those satellite product does not represent this very cold nearshore water. And this has a direct impact for the atmosphere, because the cold water is going to increase the stratification in the atmospheric boundary layer, so it will decrease the wind speed. So if we want to be able to have a good representation of the sea-land transition for our simulation, we really need to be able to resolve this upwelling front. So in our case, we are going to use the ROMS model to do it. Now we have the two numerical models, and we need external data to run this model. First, we need, of course, a low-frequency component for us, for our simulations. So we chose an NCEP NCAR reanalysis, which is a fairly coarse resolution reanalysis at 250 kilometers. So this reanalysis will provide a set of prognostic variables, coarse resolution variables, and we are going to use those variables to provide lateral boundary condition and initial conditions for our regional model. And starting from the fact that the main factors for variance at mesoscales are land sea boundaries, terrain, and land use, we need to be very careful to choose our topographic data. So we use the USGS data for topography. And for the first simulation, for the moment, we don't use ROMS for the SSTs. So in this case, we use SODA. This is so-called simple ocean data simulation. This is also an oceanic reanalysis available at a resolution of 50 kilometers. And taking all those external data, our model, we will be able to provide fine-scale prognostic variables. And it's also important to realize that for our problematic, it's very different from operational models, because operational models are really strongly influenced by initial conditions, and in our case, it's really everything is dominated by boundary conditions. So just very quickly, all the difficulties and pitfalls associated to regional climate modeling. So there are a few publications mentioning this. But generally, we want to avoid any aggressive jump in resolution between the coarse resolution and the fine resolution grids. So something bigger than 5 or between 5 and 8 would lead to really strong dynamical inconsistencies at the boundaries, which is not very good, because in this case, we can really lose the low frequency signal. So we need really a smooth transition from coarse resolution to fine resolution. And also, it's very important to see that it's the choice for the size and the position of the domains are really important too. First, to avoid numerical instabilities, because if you put your boundary in the middle of a steep topographic region, it will lead to numerical instabilities. And also to keep efficiency of parallelization. And the thing is that also we have only boundary condition every 6 hours. So if we put a boundary in the middle of a region where we have very high frequency waves, it will lead to a subsampling for those waves. And in general, we don't want to let too many degrees of freedom to our local model, because in this case, there is really a strong risk to drift away from large scales. But what is the important message is that for regional climate modeling, the emphasis is really often put on the physical parameterization. But a very important point is also the downscaling approach, because if we have the best parameterization in the world, but if we don't have the right low frequency signal, we don't have a good solution at the end. So our downscaling strategy is the following one. We start from, as I said before, from the NCEP reanalysis between 1970 and 2000. And we have a first WRF grid with a resolution typically between 75 and 100 kilometers. And there is here, these blue arrows corresponding, we do a spectral nudging between the NCEP reanalysis and our coarse resolution grid. So thanks to this spectral nudging, so it means that we don't do nudging in the physical space, but in the spectral space, we are able to nudge the low frequency of our WRF grid towards the NCEP reanalysis. And after that, we use one-way nesting for a grid, an intermediate grid with a resolution between 15 and 25 kilometers, and our grid of interest here, our fine resolution grid between 5 and 10 kilometers typically. We use here two-way nesting between those two grids because thanks to the two-way update, actually, same thing, we are going to increase the dynamical consistency between this grid and this grid close to the boundaries. So we really want to avoid any boundary artifacts for our strategy. And if we use, of course, a wave or an ocean model, we also put a forcing here through the SST, for example. So this is a general strategy. So it starts from the basic assumption that the NCEP reanalysis provides a good large-scale forcing. Actually, this reanalysis product has been really widely used and widely validated, so we can start from the assumption that this is a good product. We don't do any two-way update between the coarser grid and the intermediate grid to avoid inconsistencies between the upscaling, the two-way update and the nudging. And we don't do any nudging in the planetary boundary layer. And for the physical parameterization, we use the choice that are done in the community climate system. This is the NCAR global couple model. And the atmospheric component of this couple model is the CAM model. So we use the CAM parameterization for radiation. And for the boundary layer, we use the YSU scheme that is a legacy from the Tron and Mart scheme that is used in CAM2, actually. And for cumulus convection and microphysics, we don't make any general choice. We are going to keep something region dependent and resolution dependent, which is extremely important for cumulus convection because at 5 kilometers, we are able to resolve explicitly a quite important part of the convective motions. So it means that sometimes you can be tempted just to switch off this parameterization because if you don't do it, actually, if you are able to resolve explicitly part of the convective motion, and if you have a parameterization at the same time, you will have double counting sometimes, and it leads to problems for our solution after that. Okay. So first application of this system. So I'm going to talk here only about the atmospheric part. So we use the WRF version 3.2. This is a 30-year simulation between 70 and 2000. 3 levels of zooms, so all the grids are represented on this figure. So the resolution goes from 75 kilometers, 25 kilometers, and 5 kilometers at the end. And the SST used for this first study are from the simple ocean data simulation reanalysis. And the SSTs are available every 5 days in this case. So first validation for this, we first look at the 2-meter temperature, monthly mean. So we have a few points in Uruguay where we have monthly data available from the NOAA, actually. And we did comparison, so it's not very clear here. So we did comparison between 81 and 90, something like that, for different points here. So in general, we see that we have what is really important. We have a pretty good interannual variability with our simulation. So we are able to really resolve all the perturbations from the climatology, actually, with peaks here. So the error is really less than 15% in general. We just have a problem during summertime. It's not very clear, but in general, during summertime, we have really warmer temperature. And the first interpretation of that is that probably we have perhaps a small problem with the cloud cover leading to this kind of overestimation of 2-meter temperature. Then if we look at the 10-meter winds, so we computed a climatology, a 30-year climatology from our simulations, and we compared it to the NCEP CFSR reanalysis, so which is a 38 kilometers reanalysis, really recently done. And what we can see in general is that the agreement is good. We have the good seasonal variability in this case. And we can see, however, that thanks to our fine resolution, so it's 5 kilometers here, 38 here, we are really able to have a better resolution for the sea-land transition, and also for some specific regions like here, where we are able to resolve more small-scale structures. And just to finish, all the future work we have to do is to do the same kind of study for other different countries, so exactly the same kind of dynamical downscaling for all those countries here. So as I said before, for Peru and Senegal, in Mozambique probably, we will need to add an ocean model to this system. Thanks.